Okay. It's on.
Yeah. All right. 5 o'clock on Friday, August 7th. I hereby call our township board meeting to order. First of all, I would like to go through the old business and would like to review the minutes of the January 30th meeting and would like to submit those for approval.
I make a motion that we approve the January 30th minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. And the motion's carried.
You gotta sign them.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and approve the other one too, the Board of Finance.
Great. Same thing with the minutes on the Veale Township Board of Finance. Can we get a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the Board of Finance. And I'll second.
That's
Minutes.
second by Rosie, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, both motions are carried, and then we'll get signatures. Round robin.
The shuffles of paper. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. Next item would be the 2025 AFR publication. It's published February 7th of 2026. We have the publisher's affidavit and also an invoice for that. But everybody's got a copy of it.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like it's for $66.84. So.
So we met the deadline. The deadline's 1st of March.
Okay. And so, if we can move on to the township insurance renewal. That's by Astra. We have a copy of that. And the annual premium was $14.04. And we had already voted to cover that as well in prior meetings, right? Yes.
Yeah. Just hadn't paid for it at that point in time.
So that covers that as far as I'm concerned, and we can move on to new business. All right. State Board of Accounts Township Annual Conference, April 2026. I believe Bill went to that.
I did. So it was, the one I went to was held over at Vincent University, so short drive. And I did get a certification. I put the agenda in here and the certification, and then also the roster of the people from, from this county that attended that meeting, without that meeting.
Okay.
But she was the only one in Davis County attended, wasn't it?
Nope.
There were 4.
Those 4. Okay.
That's on that sheet, right there.
He has highlighted in the back from other townships.
Okay.
And so, if we move on to the 2027 wage resolution, Veale Township, and we were proposing a 3.5% kind of cost of living type increase.
And that's consistent with the county. That's what they recommended.
And so then the 2026 approved wage resolution, which we've already voted on that at a prior meeting, if I'm remembering right.
What's that?
Or did we ever vote on that prior?
No, we have not.
Oh, not this time.
We need it this time.
Okay. So looks like we would need a motion to vote on that.
Okay, I make a motion that we vote on the approved wage resolution.
And I'll second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion carried.
So we need to sign
For that.
Okay,
this document.
And once again, I feel like with Bill, your leadership and the amount of money that you're saving through investments and how hard you worked, I think that what little bit of a 3.5% interest, increase, is well deserved because of how much that you worked hard at keeping our costs down.
Well, thank you.
And it's very time consuming.
It is.
Mhm.
It's when you do it and do it to the letter of the law like you do, it takes some work. And we appreciate, at least I appreciate that. I'm sure Rosie does.
I
too.
do too.
And then did I get a date on that one, Bill? I need a date.
I don't know if it has
We
that.
okay?
I know the date's out here.
Oh, wonderful.
Maybe if you want to put a date on it, you can.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, 2027 wage resolution, we need to discuss and now is there anything more or does that take care of that item
No, that takes care of the,
for next year?
For next year,
Okay.
2027 wages.
Okay, that threw me off with the wage resolution for 2026, but that was all for 2027.
yeah, I just put the last year's in there so you had a copy to see what we,
The record.
yeah.
I see. Okay. So if we can, we want to move on to the 2027 budget public hearing, for our township.
And we need to state a time, so it looks like it's 5:07.
Okay,
Okay.
so a different part of our meeting, 5:07.
Yeah, so we're opening the budget hearing.
Hearing.
We got any more public here?
Not unless they're watching.
Right. So, we want to do a budget comparison for 2027 and 20 versus 2026 for the town
First,
person.
I'm gonna give you a sheet. This is what's on Gateway that shows that we did announce that we were having this meeting. And it was really delayed. We've got a new budget tool this year. And they didn't, and the state's putting in more stuff. And they had a gate that stopped from submitting it until they got stuff in. So they didn't get stuff in until the 28th. That allowed this to go out to the public.
Okay.
So I was concerned that we weren't gonna make the 10-day in advance notice before the meeting. So I did contact the paper and I put 2 announcements in the Washington Times Herald in the event that this didn't get taken care of. And those are 2 that we have to pay for.
Okay.
I put one in for just a free announcement, but I paid for 2 announcements to go in.
Yeah.
So
I saw those close dates on those two and I said, I bet he's got a good explanation for why it's 2 of those. So that was good. Thanks.
because I didn't really want to move this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
So that's why I did that. Back to you, Clint.
All right, did that complete the township general fund? Because that's where we were
Okay.
kind of.
So if you see, we had some increases in the general fund,
Right,
and one of them is $10,000 in legal fees. And what the seminar that I attended, that I gave you guys copies of, I asked the lawyer, because he had been the one that has done 3 mergers of townships. He's the only lawyer that's done that in the state of Indiana. So I asked him, I said, well, what kind of cost are we anticipating to do mergers?
Mhm.
And his answer was $10,000. So I added $10,000 to the budget here. And then shortly afterwards, he said, you may have to have CPAs involved too. So I added $2,500 to what we had last year for that, to cover that in the event that we get involved in a merger.
Okay.
So that's the biggest change. Also, I went through an audit. I went through the assessment for cybersecurity again this year. I did it 2 years ago and did it again in April this year. And they've made in my conversations with them, they brought up some issues that they felt like maybe we should do a little differently. And basically it was involving hiring some technical people to come in and help us make some additional changes that I told them I wasn't for sure that I knew how to make.
Mhm.
So, they did add that, and then they also suggested that we add a backup storage to the cloud. And I tried to do that about 6 months ago and I couldn't get it done, so that would require something that would be additional help too. So it costs something to do that, plus I'm gonna need some help to get that accomplished. So those are the major additions to the budget. I did put more money in insurance because you saw what our insurance did last year.
Right.
And God only knows what it's gonna be this year, so. And I will tell you also that in talking to the guys from Purdue and IU, they asked about, did we have cyber security insurance? And I told them no, we'd made a definitive decision that we were going to try to address some of the technical issues. And they both suggested that we reconsider that.
Mhm.
So, so
We want to have any further discussion on that? Have you?
not at this point in time, but no, that was something else I added in to cover some of the,
In case we do read it.
right. But just means that I need to do more work on the insurance side next year.
Sure.
You have to submit an application and it has to go to the underwriter and they have to then review it, then they come back with a quote at that. After you do that, that's how they quote it, so.
Well, yeah, and I'm definitely gonna lean heavy on your recommendation because, I know how thorough you are and how frugal you are, that we don't want to waste the budget, but we also don't want to open ourselves up to liability. So I'm definitely open to discussion on that.
Well, I'll show you some results later in this meeting that we've got. We got the second quarter report from the cyber track team. They were doing evaluations on where they've seen some issues on cybersecurity and who's been hit and what some of those events are.
Any discussion on when we're gonna vote on that?
We'll vote on that next meeting.
Next meeting.
Right. So on township assistance, we haven't had any requests for well, I'll take that back. We have not approved any township assistant requests. We've had 3 that have come up. And the first we found was in Washington Township, not Veale. So that got transferred to Washington Township. The second one came in through our website and it looked like to me it was a potential scam. So I sent a response back asking for information because it was very vague and I never got a reply back. So that was the second.
Right.
The third one, I got a call from Washington Township and there was a lady that had a house fire. And they initially thought she's right on the border between Washington and Veale. She's on Veale's side, but they took it that she was a Washington resident. So they started an action and they had met with her and took part of an application and they were making arrangements for her to stay in a local motel for 7 days. And then they called me and said, here's what we got. This lady was in the hospital and she had a fire last night and they took her to the hospital because she had smoke inhalation. And they said, we've already offered her a week at a local hotel. Are you okay with that? And I said, yeah, that sounds legit. So they were supposed to call me back and I ended up going in there and got the copy of their application. But what they said was the lady denied or refused the offer. So I tried to call her a number of times and left voicemail messages. I ran by her home one time and didn't see anything there. And I also texted her a number of times and never got a response. So I think I did my due diligence, but I was never able to talk to her. So I don't know what's happened.
Well, thank you for all that legwork.
So anyway, so what I'm proposing next year for the township assistance is exactly the same as last year. No increases at all.
Now moving, page 2, Veale Township Capital Improvement Plan, public hearing as well.
Let's close the public hearing for the budget.
Okay. Closed at 5:16.
Yeah, I make a motion to,
No motion needed.
no motion, okay,
We have to do that next time.
okay.
Okay, we didn't have to have a motion to close the meeting though, right? To close that hearing.
We won't.
That's what I'm thinking.
Do we need a motion to open the capital improvement plan?
No, you just do it as a,
So, I have 5:16. We're gonna open the capital improvement plan public hearing.
so there's been a lot of up and downs on what's happening with the state government as far as townships and capital improvement plans and things of that nature. If you remember last year, there was a bill that passed that said townships have to do an annual capital improvement plan. And if they don't, they won't be given their property tax allocation.
Mhm.
So I don't know how many did it at that point in time. But I never heard anything with what we turned in. I never heard a word. So this year, the legislature passed a revision to that bill. And that's a little bit of what it is. So they've pushed that out, requirement out until January 2028 to have a capital improvement plan. Now, they do have a tool that says you put numbers in and it's supposed to tell you whether you need to submit. So it doesn't cover every township. So there's some vagueness. And then they've got a tool that you're supposed to put the numbers in, which isn't real clear on how you put what you put in. That some townships will have to do it every year, starting now. Others won't have to until January 2028. So in reading from a posting from Indiana Township Association, they encourage every township to go ahead and do their capital improvement plan, which would be my intent anyway, to do it in that way you don't get called into, well, you didn't do it, you should have done it, all that good stuff. So, but the state's been very confused on it. And we didn't get a reading on it until July 24th, when we finally got something from the Department of Local Government and Finance. And so it was really late coming. So basically, I went ahead and put it together and I gave you guys copies. Essentially, it's what we put in last year with a little bit of additions to later years. So I don't know how it's going to be handled in the future, but if you showed a surplus last year, then you had to apply 30% of that surplus to the roads. The clarification I've got was that it didn't just go to the Davis County Road Highway Department.
Yeah,
It went to them, but we were supposed to work with them on a road within Veale in your township to improve.
Yeah.
But you had to take 30% of your surplus out. So last year I made it large enough where we didn't have a surplus. And I continued to do that this year as well, so.
Okay.
It's not it can be questionable. But I think this is the cleanest way for us to move forward,
Right.
since the state's been not real clear on what's happening with those different requirements.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Really don't know at this point.
And didn't you, when we went through this earlier, didn't you talk with someone who was kind of giving us a little bit of like, hey, this is what we're doing, any of our peers?
We had a meeting last year with the ITA
Yes.
and they kind of coached us last year
Okay.
on what we should do.
Yes.
And they were coaching us to put together a capital improvement plan that took care of your surpluses.
Yeah,
They haven't done that this year because the state's been so late getting anything out.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And even last year was pretty matter of fact when the meeting was set up.
Sure.
So that's kind of what we're following is with the recommendations that the
ITA to set out. Okay, yeah,
from last year.
right.
But again, I never heard anything from the state. I never heard that they got it. They agreed with it. They rejected it, just nothing at all. So.
Okay. The next item would be the township mergers. Voluntary mergers. and
So,
consultation.
Is everybody okay with this plan? Because we don't have to vote on it this
Okay.
meeting, but we will next. meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
But I want to make sure that everybody's okay with.
Sure.
So is this where we would call this,
Yeah,
close that? public
Right.
hearing? Okay. We'll close that at 5:21. Sorry about that. I was kind of streamlining into it, but it's not. It's completely separate. So
I got more information.
we're ready to move on to the township mergers.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Let's see, right. Okay. Okay.
And Bill put together a nice little packet. You're gonna be going by this packet here as well, aren't you?
I just went ahead and sent that to you in advance,
Okay.
so I can try to answer any questions. This is the lawyer at Indianapolis that has done the 3 mergers.
Okay.
There's been, previously there was 1,008 townships in Indiana. There's 1,005 now because he's merged 3 of them with others. So he's been the only lawyer that's done any voluntary merger. So he was asked to be a guest speaker and give this presentation. So what he does is outlines pretty specifically what deadlines are going to happen and suggested. He suggested voluntary mergers prior to the mandatory mergers that are going to happen. Have to happen.
Okay.
So basically give you some background. This is the map of Davies County. And it shows where all the townships are. Like to do a voluntary merger, and I think also a mandatory merger, your township cannot merge with a township that's not in your county. So we could merge with a township in Pike County, or we could merge with a township in Knox County. You also have to have border any township that you're gonna merge with. So us being here in the corner, we're not gonna have to merge with the score I'm gonna show you. But our option, if we would have to merge, we would only have Washington Township or Harrison Township to merge with. So it's very limited. Other townships have more options.
Mhm.
So the ITA also put together a tool that basically took Senate Bill 270 and how each of the townships are going to be rated. And that's these next 3 pages. So these are the questions that come up, and you can either get a point or you don't get a point. And once you total your score up, then if you have 4 points or more, that determines that will determine that you have to manage during the mandatory merger period of time. So these are the questions. And then the next sheet is my interpretation of those criteria and our measurement. So I see that we're going to get 3 points And 1 point comes from item number 2, which we do not have a fire or an EMS that's part of the township management. So the fire department is a fire district, and they have their own tax rate that they set. So they're independent of us. So we got a point for not managing either an EMS or fire department. The second point we got was number 6, and that's the assisted applications. If they were saying if you got 24 or more, you didn't get a point, but if you got less than 24, you got a point. So we're definitely, that's a sizing thing. So we got that point, and then the next one is 7, and our certified budget has not been $100,000. It's been under $100,000. So that's the third point we got. So the state's not committed until having all the townships scored till the end of the year. So that's when the official scores are going to come out.
And a high score is good or bad?
Bad. I scored that. So that's the merge criteria that's setting out there from Senate Bill 270 being passed last year. And then here's the last page in that section is the timeline or the deadlines for certain things that need to happen. So they also in the changes that they made this year, the revisions to the bill, they pushed out the mandatory mergers from January 28 to January 29. So the mandatory mergers aren't going into effect until January 29. So they pushed it out a whole year. However, if you do voluntary mergers, they have to be completed by January 28. So.
And I think we talked in other prior meetings that I just, like you said, your attention to detail and you wanting to, that's why our score is so favorable is that I think you just your leadership. So, but once again, think you're doing a great job. So.
Well, one thing, I did talk to some people, some other trustees at the State Board of Accounts meeting, and one guy I was sitting next to, he'd been a trustee for quite some time, but he was from a small area, kind of a rural area, and we were talking about points and stuff of that nature. He said, I always make our budget over 100,000. And I said, you do? He said, yeah. And I said, but that's way over what you spend, right? And he goes, yeah, but I don't want to do any additional appropriations. And so I just budget high on everything. And I said, well, we could do that too, but we haven't. So that's part of the other thing of increasing the budget is trying to maybe get it over 100,000, even though we're not going to spend near that money for a future next round. It does.
Right.
Because I get the impression that people talking do not feel the legislature going to get any easier on merging in townships. So, it's taken 27, 37 years for to take this action, but I think that they're still wanting to reduce townships. Right. At least that's kind of the feel I'm getting at some of the meetings. So.
And going further on that projected 2028 levy analysis, did you want to speak to that? Or did you?
No, I just wanted to basically provide that to you guys, sure. So you had at least some feel.
Yes.
I'm confident we're not going to have to merge with anybody, but there may be opportunities that some township would want to merge with us. And this kind of gives you some indications of what financial impacts it would make with different townships merging with us. So
Because, I mean, because it spells it out, like the reasons they get these points.
Right. But this sheet shows the financial impact of different merger
Okay.
criteria. So.
Yeah.
So I have had a brief discussion with Kim Arms about Harrison because I'm confident they're going to have to merge with somebody. You're gonna be required to merge with somebody. She was really not definitive on whether they considered a decision or not. I told her that we would be interested in them, in Harrison merging with Veale. And so I thought I would call her again, but I wanted to check with you guys because I think what might be an appropriate thing to do is ask if we could have a joint board meeting. And that way, if there's any questions on what we would be willing to do as an agreement, potentially as a voluntary merger with them, it's pretty well defined what by Senate Bill 270, that if a township is forced to merge, then they only transfer one board member to the new formed township. And the receiving township gets to choose which board member they take. The trustee would be without a job at that point in time, and the other two board members would go away. So if you're doing a voluntary merger, there can be some concessions made that might be more inducive to another township joining another township voluntarily. What I don't know is on the mandatory merger, that's going to be handled by the commissioners. And I'm not for sure, I've never heard anybody say when two townships would merge, the merging township would only have one board member that would transfer over. But I don't know if that continues once you go into the next election, or they go back to a 3-member board. So they may do that as a interim solution, but I've never heard that they're going to change the board from 3 to 4 or enlarge the boards.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, I've heard people recommend that they didn't want them to enlarge the board. They wanted to keep it at 3. So I think that, and this is just me, that I think it's a transitional decision to say, let's take one of the receiving board members for the year to 2 years that you're merging them, and then I think the next election there would be back to the three board members.
And I want this to be received the right way, the way it's intended, that if there needs to be, to make this work for them, if I need to step down and they take my spot, I'm here to serve, but if it's a situation where they feel like they're getting a bad deal, if there needs to be a chair open, I could vacate, but I want that to be, a concession, because I mean, nobody likes being taken over, but.
Right.
So.
But you do an awful good job.
You do.
Well, but I'm sure there's plenty of other people who could do just as not better.
No, they couldn't.
Well, thank you.
So we're not at that point. And one question was asked at the meeting I attended and said, well, if our township really wants somebody to merge with us, can we force them? I almost laughed, you know what I mean? And the lawyer said, no, there's no forcing at this point in time. If a township doesn't want to merge with your township, then there's nothing you can do about it. It's based upon that township and making their own choices. But that's going to change when it goes to mandatory mergers. And I don't know how that's going to be.
28,
2029.
2029.
That's when they merge in 2029.
Yeah, I guess.
But next year is when the commissioners are supposed to start having meetings on it.
Yeah.
Anything else people need to know on mergers?
We have a nice item, on cybersecurity. I'm sure you've got plenty for us to do.
If you want to know. So, this was one of the reports. You've got the whole report, but I pulled this section out. And I just wanted to share this with you. They started the cyber security assessment called CyberTrack, and that's a combination of experts at Purdue University, which are more the technical experts, and then they've got experts from IU, and they combined into what they call a team called CyberTech or CyberTrack. And the IU people are more on the organizational structure, the policies and procedures and stuff of that nature. So they're working together. And this is the free service that they started offering. So we signed up and did the assessment in April of 2024. And then I signed up again and started another assessment in 2026. So in April of 2026. So this is part of their report on what progress they've made. So one of the requirements are they've got to report out on a quarterly basis to the Indiana Office of Technology. And it talks about the number of county governments, city governments, townships, schools, libraries, whatever, participated in this. And as of May 2024, which is the second column over, there had only been 2 townships that had participated in that assessment, one of which is us. And now, as of May 2025, there's been 6 townships that have gone through that process. So I guess I'm tooting my horn a little bit there.
My dad said if you don't toot your horn, it might not toot it.
That's possible. That's possible. So this is
I like that.
That's a good one.
So this is the report that the CyberTrack team put together and gave, and it's covering May 2023 through May 2026. So this is the latest report that they've had, and that's part of the report that tells you what they've done. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to understand because they're all talking, the people that wrote this are all PhDs. So, but anyway, that's what you got. The next thing I gave you was a local quarterly threat report. And that's this sheet right here. And so this is put together by the Indiana Office of Technology on what kind of cybersecurity incidents they're seeing during this quarter. And if you turn to not the header page, but the next page, there was 43 cyber security incidents that had occurred during this quarter. 25 of those involved schools. 20 of those involved either city government or county government. 2 involved libraries. So there's no township on there, but basically they're hitting both the schools and the local government pretty heavily. So if you look at this section right here, it breaks down what the incidents are. So one's called, I don't know, what's that word?
Issue.
Phishing?
Fishing,
Phishing?
yeah, that's where they like try to get information out of you, where they send you like.
Have I got a deal for you?
Yeah, scamming emails.
So that's continue to be the thing that they, in the meetings, they talk about so much is, it can be an email you get, and they've given examples of like an email was sent to the accounting department and said, I want to change my payroll deduction, or I want to change my payroll and move it to a different bank. and the financial department did that without confirming it with the employee. And it was, so their paycheck started going into another account. So those are kind of some incidents that happened. And they said those are probably the most prevalent. And then the third party breaches, they talk about it a little bit too, but by and large, the phishing is the biggest issue. And, so we're not a big organization, so if I mess up and do something like that, then it's me. But I don't have to worry about crosstalk between, who's writing the checks and who's not writing the checks
Right.
and giving them information and things about it. What I have seen is, I have seen an increase of requests for what they're calling public information.
Hmm.
And some of them say they're coming from New Jersey and New York. And I have not responded.
And that's been on the website. Have you seen that? That's been on the website.
It's come through the website, I think. So I think that's one thing that it could be a scam. And I'm leaning that it probably is. Why does somebody in New Jersey, they may want to do a nationwide poll or something about it. But why does somebody in New Jersey or New York need to know what Veale Township's spending their money on and what whose are? So, I may be delinquent, but I think I'm erring in the right direction. So here's another recent, cyber security incident. And I think what they're saying is that due to the war we're having with Iran's noted to have a lot of experts in cybersecurity, and the way they fight wars is they come back and do things to our infrastructure. This is where we're getting, water departments, and don't know it's Iran, but there's a continuous talk that Iran's got a lot of those types of experts, and that they take action on different utilities a lot of times. So utilities are at top alert, and here's just one water departments that were hit. So there's also, it's been in effect forever, but there was another recent email that came to me, or letter that came to me. And that talks about that if you do have a cyber security incident, that you've got to report it. You need to report it. And the reporting goes to the Indiana Department of Township, or in the Indiana Office of Technology. But this is from the State Board of Accounts. They're saying they need that information too. So that's just another reporting structure. Now, I have heard in the past that some townships, some counties or schools that had cybersecurity insurance reported it to the state before they reported it to the insurance company. And the insurance company said that invalidated their claim. So they denied the claim because they weren't the first to be alerted of the claim. So I haven't really attended any recent meetings that talk about how the cyber security insurance is working, but there's a lot of horror stories about how it was working before, where most of the claims were being denied and they were getting very little help from that expenditure.
That makes me kind of glad we made a decision we made.
But
Yeah.
like I said, they haven't had them as guest speakers recently.
Yeah.
For some time. So maybe it's changed at this point in time, but there was always loopholes of that would explain why the insurance company wasn't paying for the the events, so. So again, I don't wanna waste their money.
Yeah.
But the guys from Cyber Tech said, in the event that you have one, and they said it's not when, and it's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
That if you've got the insurance, it helps you with all the work of notifying people and how are you gonna handle these certain things. And so they said, that's a massive job, and if you don't have that type of assistance, it sounds like it'd be overwhelming anyway, but. So I don't know, we'll probably have to go through the process of quoting insurance again for cybersecurity. But I don't know where I stand. Well, I think I know where I stand. I stand more not getting it than I do getting it.
I mean, it was very expensive, right?
It was back then.
Yeah.
I don't mind paying for a service, but it kind of reminds you of things like when you get homeowners insurance and you get looking, well, you need sinkhole insurance, and you need earthquake insurance, and you might need asteroid insurance. And you're like, look, I want to pay a premium and I just want my house covered. And either you're in a covered house or you're not. And I'm too simple when it comes to that kind of stuff. And so when I start seeing loopholes, it's easy for me to say no.
So that'll be something we hear more of as the future comes around. On what we need to do, things of that nature, so. Any questions on the cybersecurity front? So that's one question that the guys from IU asked. Because we have to submit a huge paper to them to evaluate, but they want to have a one-on-one meeting with you, so I did that. And this time, it was almost 2 hours, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so they were telling me part of it was that we're as small as we are, and they haven't had a lot of experience dealing with townships. So they wanted to they asked a lot of questions and things about nature. But the other thing was, now I forget what I was gonna say.
You were talking about I think what they were talking about is cybersecurity insurance and so on.
Right, and so, sorry, I went on a tangent, I'm not sure what I'm trying to get to, I'll probably remember it later. But they did say they thought you needed to at least evaluate it again, sure, so.
All right. So that should conclude our cybersecurity bullet points.
I think so.
Okay, all right. Next, we move on to financial monthly cash in funds ledger from June 2026.
So I give you some of the major reports. From a financial standpoint, so you got June's figures, which basically says overall, we've got $170,351 as the ending balance as far as the end of June. And of that, we have $165,000 which are invested. So the next page shows the cash that we only are keeping $5,115 in our checking account. And I'm doing that on purpose, to try to get as much interest as we can get.
Sure.
So I'm trying to look at the cash flow and thinking that that's okay. So I know at the end of the year, I'm gonna have to pull money out of the Trust Indiana. So it can be moved in and out pretty easily, but to pay the payroll. But keeping this low is trying to maximize the interest. And then this shows also the investment statement, which shows that we have 95,000 plus in our township account, and we have 69,000 plus in our township assistant account. So any questions on that?
So moving on to the investments, CD rates from January 5th, February 26th, and June 27th.
So those are periods that we had investments that matured. and had to be reinvested. So we haven't met for such a long time. I went ahead and put these sheets in this to just give you an idea of what the interest has been. And we haven't moved anything out of Crane at this point in time because they've continued to be the highest offering for the CD rates. The one in June, I thought about, there was $3,000 that I thought was surplus in the township assistance. And I thought about putting it in a CD, but I was concerned about it. So I went ahead and put it into Trust Indiana because it's more fluid.
Sure.
So it's getting lower interest than we would have had if we'd taken another CD out, but I just felt like we needed that potential for cash flow. And now we've got our two large investments that matured today. And here's the evaluation for those. And interest rates have gone up, so that's a good thing for our side. If you look, Crane's offering a 13-month CD at 4.0 APY, which is the highest of anybody, but Old National also is offering a 4.0% APY for 11 months. So by Crane offering it for 2 months longer, I felt like we should stay with Crane. So. But Old National Bank has not been competitive for months. So they must see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna reinvest that money tomorrow. With Craig. Any questions about any of those financial transactions?
So we move on to township assistant status, and you've already reviewed that, so we're good there. Board internal controls audit, completed board member report, January 2026 was Sue. February 2026 was me, March 2026 was Rosie, again in April was Sue, May was Rosie, and then I submitted mine today for June 2026.
And Rosie gave me hers when she got here.
Okay. Good.
So we're all caught up. I did my normal quick assessment of July figures before I uploaded that information to Gateway, but I just got the bank statement. So I'll be working on that, and I got Rosie designated for that one.
Okay. And then I'll have the one for August, and Sue will have the one for September.
Right.
Okay. Other business.
So I do have a dashboard report that I recently got. And this is for our website. And I thought it was just interesting that you guys could see it. And I didn't have it when I had the board package ready, but I still felt like this. So this is covering a period of July 4th through August 2nd. And it says we had 47 hits. We had 47 visits to our website. And it shows you, this was on page 3, it shows you which area that those logins went to. So home is the largest one with about 19 or 20 hits. And then they've gone to the Veale Township churches, the next highest, which is 7 or 8. Then they've gone to the board members and the trustee, about 3. And then about the Veale Township, 2, and things on resources, on township assistance and things of that nature, 2, and then 1 unknown. So
Really trust them, can't they? They do.
Then it tells you whether they were, the hits came from a mobile device or whether it came from a desktop device. And then it also tells you about what kind of, router that was used to access it.
Mhm.
So I hadn't seen this for a while, and I was shocked that we had 47 hits to our website.
Downright popular.
In basically 1 month.
Yeah, in one month. So just thought that was interesting. I have looked recently, and none of the other townships have a website. But it's still costing us nothing, and they're still offering that service.
Right.
So in the past, I forget when it was, several months ago, I notified all the townships about that offer. And told them, basically, we had taken advantage of that and showed them that, they could look at our website to see what kind of product they got. But I'm not aware of any of them moving forward on that.
And this is where you will post this video.
It will, right. So we post the agendas, we post the meeting minutes, we also post the video of the meeting, so.
So any other comments?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe you guys don't want to know this, but I think it's kind of interesting with what we've done and what happens with it, so. Yeah. Hopefully some people benefit from the effort.
So looks like our next board meeting, September 11th of 2026.
Yeah, we got a schedule for 5:00. Is that good with
Let
everybody?
me look.
Me.
I
As
think
far
it's
as I
gonna be
know.
fine.
What day is that?
Friday.
That's a Friday.
I've got it down on my calendar, no conflicts.
Okay, that's good. And during that, then we have the adoption of the 2027 budget. We also have the adoption of the capital improvement plan. And those are the main topics we need to cover.
And the Board of Finance meeting is still to be determined.
Yeah, we have that in January, and unless there's a need to do it, we don't really have any other meetings throughout the year, but we will have one in January. That's required.
5:58, Robert's rules will allow me to move to close.
I second
Second, all in favor?
it.
Aye. Motion closed.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you for all the information.
You want to turn that off?
Jam packed.
Are you doing okay on your phone?
Oh, it's wonderful on time. Yeah. We're on the roll.
Come on.
I don't want to get fired.